let me introduce my guests here in the studio, many of whom I am sure if the issue came up for discussion on this show will disagree with me. My guest, Abdul Malik Akufo-Addo, Editor-in-Chief of the New Crusading Guide newspaper. Also here is Kofi Bentil, his Senior Vice President of Imani Africa. Here in the studio also is Gary Nimakomafo, his member Legal and Constitution Committee of the New Patriotic Party. And Sami Jemfi is National Communications Officer, the National Democratic Congress, NDC. Gentlemen, good morning and welcome to Newsfile.
Good morning, Samson.
Great. So I will begin on this note. Let's go listen to the NDC for some 3 minutes and then listen to the NPP reply the NDC.
Among Akufo-Addo's uncountable relatives in government is Nana Asante Bediatu, who is a cousin of President Akufo-Addo from Chebi and serves as his executive secretary. But ladies and gentlemen, Bediatu is not alone. He is joined in government by his father, his biological father, called Akufo-Addo Asante, who has been appointed by President Akufo-Addo as chairman of the governing council of GIMPA. He is also joined by his biological mother, Mrs. Vida Asante. You can see her picture on the screen, who is the head of the presidential household. So his mother is also a presidential staffer, described as head of the presidential household. His brother, his blood brother, Kwesi Kuntu Asante, has also been appointed as a board member of Ghana Hostels. In addition to this, his blood sister, called Loretta Asante, with a marital name Ochre, so she's now called Loretta Ochre, has also been appointed as one of the 3 Deputy Director General at Senate. We also must add that Samira Bawumia's brother, Alhaji Ramadan's son, that is Abu Ramadan, has also been appointed as a deputy director at NADMU. But not just that, you also have another brother of Samira Bawumia. So Rebecca Akufo-Addo is not the only guilty, first lady. The second lady is also part. Mumuni Abdullahi Bawumia, if we can see his picture, he's quite unknown. Mumuni Abdullahi Bawumia, a brother of Vice President Bawumia, has been appointed as technical advisor to the Interior Minister, Honorable Ambrose Derry. So Bawumia's brother has also gotten his fair share. Number 1, how President Akufo-Addo took oil supply contracts from Bost and gave it to a company associated with his brother, Edward Akufo-Addo, aka Bomti. So Bost, as a state-owned entity, was supplying finished petroleum products to GOIL, to TOR, and other state institutions. As soon as President Akufo-Addo took office, ladies and gentlemen, a company called Stratcon Energy was hurriedly formed in 2017 and has taken over the supply of oil products to GOIL, Bost, TOR, and VRA. So,
out of the 51 names they put out, over 33 of them have no real family ties with the president. Some of the family members mentioned are not members of the government, even though they are known members of the New Patriotic Party. To name the only brother of the president and say Edward Akufo-Addo is the right-hand man of his brother is as profound as saying that Accra is the capital city of Ghana. Of course. It's no news. You have said nothing Should Mumuni Bawumia have resigned from the Ministry of Interior as a civil servant because his brother's party, NPP, won the 2016 elections? Let's get serious. It should not matter what they are, but they are known die-hard NPP members. They have worked tirelessly. They are competent. And today, where they are, they deserve it. NDC had issues with 11 people on their list. Of 51 people, those are friends of Ken Ofori-Atta. Please, tell them that we are not sure about appointing enemies. All jokes aside, are those 11 who are not family members, not competent and qualified to serve? The Ramadans worked for 2016's victory and are competent to serve. There is not a single person who has been appointed and who is not qualified to serve in the NPP. Ladies and gentlemen, let us even say that all names they have mentioned yesterday are true. Which of them have been awarded a contract or given a national asset like John Dramani Mahama did for Ibrahim?
All right. So the first clip was Sami Gyamfi, who is right here in the studio, and the second was Sami Gyamfi is the National Communications Officer of the NDC, and the second was the NPP's youth organizer, Nana Boakye. So we were hoping to briefly, get your comments, particularly from guys like you who have been watching the securities sector and the finance sector, about what the Securities and Exchange Commission has done about these fund managers and the rest of them. But when we get time at the end of the discussion, at the end of these three, we should pay a little attention to that. So let's begin from here. And very briefly, I would like to know from you, Sami Gyamfi, what were you seeking to do? You had the question posed to you, we won't appoint enemies. President Mahama is campaigning. He's campaigning with friends, right? Definitely when he wins power, he will appoint them. So what exactly are you talking about?
Something, thank you for this opportunity, and let me say good morning to all our cherished listeners and viewers across the globe. That excuse by the New Patriotic Party for me is very laughable, very unacceptable. Because, you see, we are not just talking about mere friends of the president who have been given appointments. We are analyzing and interrogating the nature of those appointments and the problems those appointments can create for the fight against corruption. So, for example, let me give you a typical example. There are so many friends of Ken Ofori-Atta in government, and yet we didn't talk about them. As Lewusu is a friend of Ken Ofori-Atta, we didn't mention her. All the ministers in this government are friends of Ken Ofori-Atta, we didn't mention them, you see. But we mentioned Kelly Gajipo. We mentioned Lynn Gajipo, because Kelly Gajipo is a co-founder of DataBank. Exactly. Kelly Gajipo is a co-founder of DataBank, long-standing acolyte or friend of the finance minister. Now, Kelly Gajipo has been appointed to the Bank of Ghana board, which has oversight responsibility or regulatory responsibility for the banking sector. He is co-founder of DataBank with the finance minister, who also exercises the same oversight. Samson, how can they be fair as regulators sitting on the board of the Bank of Ghana when issues of DataBank come up? Because they have a direct interest in DataBank as founders.
The rules of the conflict of interest.
Exactly, and this is a clear violation of those rules.
No, it's not a violation. When matters concerning their entities come up, they may have to make a full disclosure and recuse themselves.
You see,
that's the rule.
It is a daily activity of the Bank of Ghana to supervise all banks. So going by that rule you just gave, then that will mean that every day they will have to give notification to the fact, because every day the banking supervision
department... Why must
department...
the rule apply differently to him in his circumstance?
What I'm trying to say is that so long as Kelly Gajepo and the host of data bank, former data bank workers, some are even current workers of data bank, sit on the Bank of Ghana, they will not be, the Bank of Ghana board, they will not be fair in how they deal with data bank as compared to how they deal with other financial institutions.
So the problem is, the problem is not about finding your friends on the Bank of Ghana board, but generally you think that even if they were not present, still decisions will be taken in their favor. So
what I'm trying to say is that it raises a serious issue of conflict of interest. It raises a serious issue of the potential for favoritism, the potential for biased decisions.
When does conflict of interest arise?
When the interest of a person conflicts with the interest of the state, then the conflict of interest arises. So that is what we are talking about. If you can say that, oh, they are Ghanaians, they are also qualified. Are they the only people qualified in this country? Are they the only people who can serve on that board? Is Henry Kukufu, is Nanajwa Hackman, the wife of Gabi Oshedakun, who sits on the GMPC board, more qualified than Boabian Samwa, Communications Director of the NPP, or Henry Kukufu, or Collins Owusu Amankwa, MP for Menchia North? Did they contribute more to the MPP's 2016 campaign?
Those you speak of, are they more qualified than Gabi's wife?
Exactly, they are more qualified.
They are more qualified?
They are more, you see, but for the family relation.
No, you can't show that.
I can show that.
You can't show that.
Where was Nanajwa Hackman in the scheme of the MPP's 2016 campaign?
We're talking about qualification.
Where was
qualification doesn't include contribution to a party.
So Joyce Bauer had no qualification.
Can we stay to this issue?
There is a minimum level of principle and consistency.
You are not talking about qualification. You are not talking about qualification.
You see, hold on. You see something? When politicians make promises to the electorate, and on the basis of those promises they get elected into office, they have a sacred responsibility to implement those promises.
What promise are you talking about that's not being kept?
The promise by President Akufo-Addo not to run a family and friends government. So he promises that in Kumasi on the 16th of January 2016, makes false allegations against his predecessor and his wife, which to date he has not been able to substantiate. He comes into office and people are saying we should allow him to amend his position. We should treat him as a sacred cow and allow him to approbate and reprobate, and that we cannot subject him to the very standard that he subjected his predecessor to. That for me is hypocrisy. So when President Akufo-Addo was making the promise in Kumasi,
how is Henry Kukufu, for example, not a friend of the president?
You see, first of all, let me explain something to you.
So that if he was appointed to the place of Gabi's wife, you'll be comfortable with that instead of Gabi's wife.
Let me give you a very simple explanation to this. Something you are very familiar with, the directive principles of state policy and what they provide. Clearly, the 1992 Constitution provides for balance and fairness in the allocation and distribution of opportunities and resources.
Regional
so, for
balance.
Example, of course. So,
Gender
for example,
balance.
You cannot come into office as president and say, because I have the discretion to hire and fire, and because I have qualified people in my family, then all my cabinet ministers will come from my family. And when you are asked the question about balance, you say that, oh, but are they not qualified?
Is that what you are speaking about?
That is what we are talking about.
That there is imbalance?
President Kufuor.
In which region?
You see, something. If you allow me to go systematically, maybe you understand.
No, let's deal with it this way. You see,
there are at least more than 100 appointees in the Akufo-Addo government who come from either his matrilineal family or his patrilineal family. A host of them. You see, what we have told you in this part one is just a tip of the iceberg.
Really?
It stinks to the high heavens. And I don't know why any objective mind would defend this shameful practice of nepotism by President Akufo-Addo.
Okay, so I'm asking you questions, but I'm not getting you to submit the proof. Because when you speak about lack of regional balance in violation of the directive principles of state policy, you don't show me where the proof is.
I'll give you the proof when I begin my substantial, you know, submission, my main submission. But I cited that also to let you know the spirit of our Constitution and the thinking of the framers of the 1992 Constitution. Just to respond to this whole issue of, oh, they are qualified. Yes, they can be qualified. Yes, they can be competent. Like Joyce Bawa Mukhtari was competent. She's a lawyer. She's been at the bar for 20 years, an expert in maritime law. And yet, the MPP made a fuss about her appointment as Deputy Minister for Transport. Just one relative of President Mahama. And you think you should get away with over 50 relatives of yours who you have appointed into government because you are more human than us? Or because of what? So, Samson, if you will allow me,
I asked about the qualification. I didn't get an answer. I rather got you taking me to contributions to a political party's victory.
If you want a specific answer to the question about qualification, I'll give that to you.
You have mentioned, yes, I'm interested.
Yes. I am saying that, number one, President Akufo-Addo should have known that he had qualified relatives when he was promising not to operate a family and friends government. Number two, he should have known that Joyce Bawa, as a lawyer for 20 years.
You are not going to that. No, wait. So for example,
you have your disagreement.
For example, you mentioned Olivia Kotte, Deputy Director General NCA. You say she's friends with Esla Owusu-Ekufo, the minister who is responsible for that, sector. Then you say Prince Sefa, friend of Esla Owusu-Ekufo, Deputy Director General, NCA. What's the point?
You see,
that they are friends with her in what form and shape, and that disqualifies them from being part of the NCA. I don't get that.
You see, we are talking about ensuring an even distribution of opportunities. Because Ghana is a democratic republic. We are not a monarch, and we are not a dynasty.
If you could speak to the two specific issues, examples I give you, yeah.
Now, we also know that nepotism, which, involves what you just cited, breeds favoritism and it breeds corruption. So, if you have been appointed as a minister and you draft your allies, your closest friends into key positions over which you exercise oversight and jurisdiction, that can lead to favoritism, it can lead to corruption, and more importantly, we are saying that these friends, you see, we are not just talking about one or two people. We are talking about the preponderance of the evidence.
The question is,
we are talking about the sheer numbers.
How are these people you pick out friends to that minister? Okay, number one. And how do you show that it is by the friendship that they got to where they are and that they are not qualified?
Something, I'm telling you. You see, when we even go to court, when issues are not in dispute, we don't waste time leading evidence on that.
These are in dispute.
It is not in dispute because the MPP itself, has considered that this is a fact. My
viewers and listeners are entitled to have the proof.
You see, you see, has Esla Owusu denied that the names you mentioned are not?
She must not come to deny before I can interrogate the issue.
The MPP addressed a press conference. Have they denied this fact? They have not.
I am interrogating them now.
And I'm saying that the issue is not in dispute. It is an indisputable, incontrovertible fact.
I don't know. You are peddling that. I want to know.
When in pleadings, when an assertion is made by plaintiffs,
court, please,
and it is not controverted, that is an admission, and you know that. So let's not spend time on that.
Silence is not always truth.
But it is true. I am telling you that it is true. This is an open truth that everybody knows.
I don't know. I'm not part of
that is why I'm telling you, and you can make your checks for yourself.
So why don't you just supply me the answer?
You see something? I will appreciate it if you allow me to begin my presentation, situate the discussion within the appropriate context, adduce all the necessary pieces of evidence to buttress that, so that these people you point out, Gabi, he's not in government. You suggest that he travels with the president. You don't show one single evidence
that he travels with the president on my money.
Okay.
I am interested on that.
The president was in Guyana on an official trip.
Correct.
For an official government business.
That's right.
To meet with the president of Guyana. He went at the expense of the Ghanaian taxpayer.
That's right.
And in the meeting with the Guyana president was not his vice, his chief of staff, or any appointee of his, but his nephew and his brother. Was that meeting a family meeting? If Gabi Ochedako is not a government official, what was he doing on an official government trip? Something.
No, here's a question.
This is a clear case of abuse of power.
That is a presumption.
It is not a presumption.
No, that's a presumption.
No, it is not.
Once you can't show me that the state bought a ticket for him and that he was part of that trip, you don't expect me to take that.
But once you have seen photographs of a non-government official in an official government meeting only because he's a nephew of the president, that is enough evidence of abuse of power.
It is not.
So you think that the
no,
mere
it is not.
No,
you are trained as a lawyer not to make these presumptions.
Why?
If you are making the presumption at least, and if you are elevating it to a fact, you must show the proof.
Proof of what? Exactly.
That he traveled as a part of the president's delegation, that his ticket was bought by the state. I am interested in knowing if that money was used to buy his ticket.
Hold on, you see, that is an issue you are raising. Okay? I am averting your mind to another issue. Hold on.
I sit here and ask the questions on behalf of millions who are watching you now. If you can allow me to
answer your question, you get
you are not
my drift.
Answering. You are not
I am answering your question. Because the issue is not just about whether or not his trip was funded by the state.
But what?
The issue is whether or not it is appropriate for a non-government official to sit in a meeting between the president of Ghana and the president of Guyana. That is also an issue. You think that it is okay for you as president to travel on official government business, engage another head of state in an official meeting with your brother and your nephew?
You said
what was their business there?
You said Kwame Akufo, for example. Let's move on.
What was their business there?
You said Kwame Akufo, for example, is a presidential staffer or works in the presidency.
We've clarified
He's come to tell you that he does not even know the color of the Jubilee House. He's not been to the Jubilee House since this government was formed.
Samson, we have clarified that. In fact, in this press statement, which is 11 pages, his name was not even captured. In the table which was released later on, his name and relation with the president were correctly captured, but the designation was wrongly captured. And we have since corrected that.
What's the correction?
He was appointed by President Akufo-Addo to the National Petroleum Authority Board, and he's a paternal relative of the president. So that is a fact. But sometimes I think that it is only fair.
What you're saying, hold on.
You
take your time. What you're saying, it is important we interrogate what you put out.
Yes.
And you should be happy we do that.
I understand.
Right. What you're saying is that by virtue of he having relations with the president, he's disqualified.
No.
That's what you're saying.
You see, when President Akufo was in office, he appointed his brother as minister, Dr. Addo Akufo, and I think one other relative of his in his government. Even though I agree that at the time he raised issues, various commentators raised issues about that, I am not sure that it attracted the same level of outreach and condemnation. Because 1 or 2 or 3 appointees of the president, for me, can be tolerated, or even 10. But you see, we raised the appointment of Kwame Akufo within the broader context of a plethora of other family relatives of the president, that if you allow me, I will take you through, who are all in government. And we are saying that looking at the preponderance, of these cases, appointments of family relatives, kinsmen, friends, and cronies of the president, it is unacceptable. Okay. So it is within that context that we do this.
Do this for me. You hold on there. And because he addressed this press conference and the questions have come out, I want you guys to deal with the questions that have come out so that he will have the opportunity to finally react to all the issues.
So you didn't even allow me to make a submission.
Hold on.
So that he will have the opportunity.
This is a very fine opportunity I'm giving you. So just let's go through this process this way.
No problem.
So who do I start with? Yes, you want to start?
Yes, I want to start.
Okay. I wanted to start with Kweku.
Let me start.
Okay. Yes.
Let me
Yes.
start.
Yes, Gary Nemako.
Yes. Mr. Ladi, thank you very much for the opportunity. I think that my brother Sabijan Fee is missing the point entirely. He's missing the point entirely. You see, reasonably, when you're a lawyer, there's a certain standard of thinking that comes with being a lawyer. Now, for instance, when you say
They're very terrible lawyers whose thinking is very terrible. So please,
but see,
just as a human being and a
but
reasonable human being, proceed.
I want to assume a certain level of critical thinking.
Okay, so proceed. What has he done wrong in his thought process? If you think he's alone in raising this issue.
You see, one, to sit here and say that somebody has been appointed to serve in government by virtue of simply a relation matter, whether qualified, not qualified, to you is immaterial. To you is immaterial. Now let me pose a question. Medeto is my friend. Gabriel Chizakon is my neighbor. So if I find myself in government, then you say, oh, another family and friends has also entered the government. Now, do you ask the question whether
Gabi is not in government to start with?
Yes, no, that's what they've been saying. Now, are you saying, or the question, or the bar, whether or not Gary Nimakon is qualified to hold the position or not? Whether or not Gary Nimakon has made contribution to the party or not? Whether or not in the struggle for political power he played any role or not? These are critical questions you ask yourself. You are going around campaigning. You ask a very good question. You go around campaigning. When you win political power, who are you going to bring in to come and serve in the administration? People outside of those who you went around with to campaign to win the political power. So I find it very, very, very weird. And now you sit here and say that Nana Addo Hackman is not qualified to be on the board of GNPC. And now you mention Kokofu's name. Kokofu is already a deputy CEO in Ghana Integrated Aluminium Company Limited. Or you are not aware. And I don't think that you can even give a prescription as to who the president should appoint or who should not even appoint. All these people you mentioned, clearly they are fit, they are proper, they are qualified to serve in government. And let the point make clear. Maybe I told his mother or his father, they are not part of the government.
Nana Addo, she's a lawyer?
Yes, she's a lawyer.
She was called before Kokofu, correct?
That is so.
She's more senior to Kokofu.
That is so. Nana Addo is,
she's more senior to Kokofu, I think so.
She'll be over 13, 14 years at the bar.
And Kokofu will be like 4 or 5 years?
At the bar.
Okay.
So right. Are you saying he's not fit to be there? You know, so I don't get a point. You see, I think we should raise the discourse. And then look.
No, they are saying, beyond just that, they are saying that you have as many as 51 friends and relatives of the president. So for them, this is unprecedented. If it were a question of the exception, that's fine. But in this situation, it's become the default for the appointment. It may be the case that this government, is the biggest in size. But still, that's the issue they raise.
Something the figure he raised is not correct. The names he mentioned and the people that he said they are in government, they are all not correct. They are all not correct. You see, to the extent that even you mention people's names and they come and say that we are not even in government, like Kwame's issue, for instance, it's really embarrassing. You didn't do your chest very well. But those mother and father are not in government. They are not in government. So where did you get those lists from? That is why, you see, it's like you just went somewhere, sat down, put some names together, and then come and tell the Ghanaian people. And you see, that's why I said, as a lawyer, to me, there's a certain standard.
You are saying that if we checked, we will not find Mrs. Vida Asante, mother of Nana Asante Bediatu, as head of the president's household.
I am telling you that they are not in government. It's not true. It is not true. So where did you get this list from? It's not true. You see, this kind of trajectory and the way we are moving the discourse.
You are saying that if we took the lists of the president's appointees
Yes.
to the Jubilee House, we will not find this woman there.
No. No. No.
And she's not there. She doesn't work as the head of
I am saying
that
that
household.
she does not work. She's not a staffer. She doesn't work for in the government.
Who else? Who else?
You see, and one thing that I think, one thing that
Who
I
else?
think,
Did you say Kofi-Addo Asante?
does not also work in the
of Nana
government.
Bidi
he doesn't work in the government.
Okay, he's supposed to be
You see-
chairman
you see-
chairman of
you
the
see-
Gimpa Council.
You see,
Supposed to be
something.
chairman of the Gimpa Council. You say he's not.
Something.
It's not government.
If you are Gimpa
Kofi
Council,
Bento, you
is it
say it's not government.
Chairman of Gimpa Council is not part
Is it
of
government?
Chairman of Gimpa Council is not
Is
part
it
of
government? Is it government? You see something.
Qualify as government.
Something. You see, one thing that I find quite weird. And is that you
Government
see,
appointed, but it's not government.
you see. Let's take it this way. If for some reason you are in government, we should look and find out whether that person who is there by way of merit, whether the person is qualified, whether the person played any role at all during the political struggle. If, for instance,
If I have the opportunity of public office,
yes,
and members of my family are qualified, I should bring them in. That's what you're saying.
what I'm saying is that we have to lift the bar. And what I'm saying is that we have to be sure whether the people who are there actually qualified to be there or not.
So that's the question I'm asking.
Yes, because if
That it doesn't matter.
something tomorrow, if for some reason I'm the president of Ghana and I think Akufo Bento, who is my long-time friend, is qualified to serve in any position, I will appoint him. The reason, even you, I will appoint you. The reason being that, you see, let's find out whether the people are fit and proper, qualified to do the job. Now, if they are there and they are not fit and proper, they are not qualified, and they've been put there, then you have to question it. Question it and say, Mr. A, Mr. B, Mr. C, is he qualified to be there in the first place?
Okay. So you hold on briefly for me. Let me now go to Kweku, because he has been interrogating the lists person by person from number 1 to 51.
Really?
Forensic.
To 51. Okay. So you sincerely believe that they don't have a point as the NDC party?
Samson, see, truly, I have not taken my time, contrary to what you said, to look at the names point by point.
I have followed you, lifting some of the people out there.
Oh no, this is
and
the
interrogating some.
no, because of what happened, I was
Okay.
checking something. This
Okay.
is the presidential staffers list.
List, right.
You know, so I was trying to see if I could find. Is it Mrs. Asante?
Yes, Vida.
Unfortunately, I didn't finish. But the list is here. This is
Right.
the 2018 list, but submitted to Parliament 5th April 2019.
Okay.
I'm not sure the 2019 list has been submitted. It might have been, I don't know.
All right.
So that's what I was looking through. No. But I've been dealing with the number 51. Of course, some of the names are very familiar. We all know. But I've been asking myself, how many appointments does the president make?
Maybe we should be talking about 50, not 51, because Gabi is labeled as de facto prime minister,
No,
not an
I'm
appointment.
proceeding on what
Okay.
they produced to us.
Okay.
They gave us the list, 51. Why should I do the mathematics?
No,
for
I'm
them?
talking factually. These are facts, and they are not entitled to
You
choose
see,
their facts.
But you see, 51, I'm proceeding on that premise.
Gabi is not an appointee of the government,
51.
so it's not 51.
I'm proceeding on that premise. How many appointees does a president appoint within the context of our constitutional architecture?
Hundreds.
Over 4,000.
6,000.
Allah, ila, ilala.
Yes, I've heard about the thousands of them, but I don't have a specific figure to them, so I always say hundreds. Yes, appointees. Yeah.
Over 4,000.
That's the point. Because if you look at the list, some of the designations or portfolios that they brought forward are not exactly within government.
Yes, but they are appointed by
So that's why I asked that question broadly. If they are in their thousands, we are dealing with 51. What's the percentage? And I'm assuming that the 51 is correct, and they are family and friends. I'm proceeding on that premise. And if the president appoints, let's say even 1,000, and not the 4,000 or 5,000, 6,000 we are being told, and there are 51 that are his family and friends, what's the percentage? Now let's go categorical in terms of the categories. Serious, we're talking here running a family and friends government, where the power lies. And power, perhaps as they are saying, also comes with nepotism and corruption. That's, we want to focus on those
Running
things.
a family and friends government, an accusation that Mahama also suffered without proof, like they have done now,
no doubt.
showing
But
numbers
you
of
know
the
my
people.
position. I took a stand on that, and I was lambasted actually by some NPP communicators. This name Joyce Bauer that is mentioned frequently these days, I didn't hear her name be mentioned then. When Babin came out to talk about friends and family government, the name that came to the fore was even Randy Abbey,
Yes,
that he
was
had
Randy.
become a shadow chief of staff.
Blocking
and
access.
Blocking access. Okay? And then Babin added that because of that, President Mahama was unable to fight corruption effectively. If you recall,
Yeah,
I took him
Randy
on.
and Stan, those were the people that were being mentioned.
Stan and Felix took Babin on and tore him apart. I also took Babin on and asked him to provide further and better particulars. Not just the names, but the corruption that he was linking to the names too.
But the MPP took that and ran with it in
Of
the
course,
election.
of course.
They didn't show us.
But that's why I
the
said when I
proof.
took that stand, the MPP
They have
took
taken
me
the
on.
pains to give us at least 51 names. So let's proceed
Yes,
on that.
so that's what I'm dealing with. And that's why I started by posing the question, 51, assuming without admitting they are all truly friends and family of the president. What's the percentage? Then I proceed from there to ask top positions in terms of the categories. Cabinet ministers, how many are they? And how many president's family and friends are in there? Ministers, how many family and friends are in there? Deputy ministers, how many family and friends are in there? Regional ministers, how many family and friends are in there? MMDCs, they are in their hundreds. How many family and friends
At
are
least
in there?
170 of them.
Then the presidential staffers, which comes under the Act, what is it? I forgot it immediately. At 463. How many family and friends are in there? Then because they have stretched the realm to bring in creative arts council and also Gimpa council,
That's the president's daughter.
Gimpa council and all that. They've stretched it. Okay? How many friends and family are in there? You see straight away that this is an invitation into the realm of absurdity. Simplicity. But for propaganda purposes, yeah, the sound bites are good. This is propaganda, an invitation to indulge in propaganda masturbation.
Can you
That's what it
imagine?
is. Foreign service.
you
Yeah, they brought in the
imagine?
foreign service.
Can you imagine for a second the NPP in opposition with this list? Can you imagine the media landscape?
I wonder why you asked me this question. I was a target of NPP critique for taking a stand on that. You recall the merchant bank issue.
Right.
And that the President Mills had invited Vice President Mahama to sit in a meeting to deal with merchant bank matters. And there was this thing about perceived conflict of interest. Again, the family connection. On this chair, here, I was dealt with. Kufo, he said, oh, now they are telling us that numbers really don't count. Kufo appointed Addo Kufo. It became a problem.
Right.
He appointed J.H. Mensah, his brother-in-law. It became a problem. When his son, who was an adult and a professional, decided to syndicate some loans to build a hotel, it became a problem, and they were connecting it to family, Kufuor's influence as president. The numbers didn't count then. There were 3 or 4, but the numbers counted and became ammo for propaganda. So I'm not talking about just the numbers. It's them who have brought the numbers. That's why, and they stretched it. And so I'm asking, fine, let's deal with the number. And the number itself, what is the percentage of that broad-based appointment zone that the president has? Of course, they moved then to link it to corruption or money, wealth making. Where's the evidence? You see, so Bumpty's sister or brother or something has been given some contract at Watts. I deal with it. Was it properly done? Procurement methods. Which one was adopted? Is it in the face of the law, procurement laws? Was it proper? Has something gone wrong? If something is gone wrong, where do you go cure the mischief? We have many avenues. If we deal with the things that way, yes, we'll be making progress. But if it's just to throw it out there, family and friends, well, I say it's good for propaganda. It might have some effect in some areas. But when you bring it on this table for interrogation, it falls flat. It becomes a disaster. That's the way I see it. Okay? I ask myself, okay, this family and friends government, what are the programs they are launching and putting out there? Those programs they are launching and putting out there, what's the impact on the population? Is it targeted at their family and
So
friends?
in respect of the specific numbers, I have a figure I am not too sure about, but because of the source, I want to believe that the president makes as many as 6,000 of these appointments.
I haven't done that research.
You know, I wrote an article even last week, and I said, we have an absurd situation where you have an imperial president who may spend all his first term, just doing appointment. So that's about 6,000.
But you see, and we have picked 51, but I'm told, to be fair to the NDC, that is 100. Only that they decided to face it. So this is part one. We'll have part two. We actually, there's an unfolding movie. You know, so, but my final point, Sami is brought in an angle. Wednesday, he brought it in. Thursday, he challenged my analysis of it. But let's be charitable. He says he wasn't talking ethnocentric, even though he kept on saying that the Ashanti NPP, Ashanti Regional NPP, are very happy with what they did. And yes, he said so. He mentions Oforiatta's name and says that somebody like Akufo-Addo perhaps would have been a more deserving finance minister than her. Well, Kojo Chumboafu described it as an ugly diversion. And I told him I didn't introduce that. But you see, Sami then goes to the Constitution to rationalize that point. Regional balance. Let's assume that premise is something we can interrogate. How do you apply it to the 51? Within the context of the 6,000 you've just told us. Where is the imbalance? I don't know whether you are getting my drift. Where is the imbalance? You take the cabinet. Okay, that's about 19 or not more than 19. Am I right? Let's check. There you can apply this if you want. Ministers, regional ministers. I'm not sure you can apply that with MDCs, but fine. Presidential staffers. Look, it's just an invitation into the realm of absurdity. If there was any merit in it, they destroyed it subsequently by bringing all sorts of alien elements. For instance, the Gabi thing, de facto prime minister. That's propagandist. We all know. It's alien to the Constitution. But you see, it is something that has been said over and over again. And then when you ask for evidence, they bring you the pictorial thing, the reflection. Gabi, Bumpty, President Akufo-Addo, and is it the president of Guyana? Was that an official meeting, really?
That's also a question to ask.
Do you know how official meetings are conducted? So please, sometimes let's just be cautious how we put these things out there, okay?
But we are getting to elections, are we not?
Exactly, ma. That's the point I was making about the propaganda masturbation. That's all. You've settled the matter for me. So it's okay.
Okay, so wait. See, to begin from this point, very brief, quick, and you are good at that. For example, I'm not making a big deal out of it. They mentioned Kwame Akufo. At the material time they mentioned Kwame Akufo, they say they have come to correct it, that he doesn't work at the presidency, but he was appointed to a board. At the material time they mentioned him, he was not an appointee. He doesn't work, he doesn't belong to any board. Okay? Should they do more than correction and apologize to him because they said this wrongly?
I don't think that
they got this wrong. I mean,
they got it very wrong. I don't think the apology will even be necessary or appreciated. They should just stop this whole thing. I really think that Kweku thinks that it's election time, so this is propaganda, and maybe that's what they are doing. I don't even think this is valuable propaganda.
It's not valuable propaganda?
No, that's why I say it's propaganda masturbation.
You know, yes. I sincerely believe, ask the average NDC person, ask the average Ghanaian, okay? So in terms of even propaganda, I doubt it's valuable. So let me just
they mentioned Gary's wife too, for example, Nanajwa, and I brought in the question of the fact that she may be even, you know, more senior than the person they say should have been appointed.
Right.
And I asked the question: the person you say should have been appointed can also be said to be a friend to the president by virtue of their work in the party. Yes, it may be the case. Nanajwa, beyond that, has studied oil and gas in Dundee. So you will say that, look, it's fit. She's fit into where she's appointed. But there are many Ghanaians who have gone to study in Dundee also and have, you know, oil and gas, you know, background and so on. So are they not correct to say, leave the people who are closer to you and go out for those who are not?
You're absolutely wrong, and that's not the way to do this kind of argument. You don't say that this person is qualified, other people are qualified, so don't put this person there. That argument will eliminate everybody, all right? And honestly, look, let me do my submission on this thing. The point is this. If we start talking about the individuals and start doing the analysis, we'll be in the weeds and we'll not get anything out of it. And I don't know how much time I have, but let me start from the conclusion. No objective check, look across the staffing, appointments, no objective analysis of this matter will show that President Nana Addo is nepotistic. None. If you take even 4,000 as appointees and there's the 50, that's the 1% or something like that. So I'm saying, I'm concluding.
I'm giving you a figure you can really work with. That's 6,000.
That makes it less than 1%.
Yeah.
So I'm saying no objective check or analysis will show that this government or the president is nepotistic. Absolutely none. And I don't think it even has propaganda value. Let me start from the conclusion. See, I think NDC should elevate the discourse. I think, and I don't think they take my advice, but they should use their time better because this has no value anywhere. You can't prove it. You can't even cause any kind of movement in this kind of direction. So I doubt the value, but it's up to them. I also think that for, you know, the politics of this country in general, it's too base, okay? And it even waits into, you know, dangerous territory when you start bringing the tribalism inside. But it's too base. It doesn't help anybody or anything. Look, we lawyers understand.
People in serious civil society groups, some don't think the way you are treating this matter, because they ask us that we should not forget that in a society such as ours, public office and public contracts allow the beneficiaries significant and privileged access to wealth-creating opportunities. Nepotism is therefore also likely to result in a concentration of economic opportunity within a family through the use of state power. It exacerbates inequality and generates unnecessary resentment and feelings of exclusion and unfair discrimination. And that, more importantly, enlightened leaders should not go that path.
All that is true, okay? But it does not mean this is what is happening, one. Number two, the fact that somebody's positioning allows them to do something does not mean they have done it. Kwame Nkrumah ruled this country with an iron fist for how long? We can't point one house he had. He had every opportunity. He didn't take it. And again, I beg you, see, this thing you're calling nepotism, it is a valid issue, but it is one of the most amorphous concepts in the world.
Really?
Yes, it's extremely amorphous. Who is a brother? The Bible says there's a friend that sticks closer than a brother. So if you say this person is my brother, whatever, look, at the end of the day, and I say I don't have time to do the analysis. If I have, I will do the analysis. It comes down, one, to whether the person is qualified for the job, and that is not even the most important issue. The most important issue is whether they are delivering on the job. There's another aspect to it. The other aspect to it is that whether they are using that position for something that is wrong. Three things. Is the person qualified? And in political appointments, that is not a big issue. Two, are they delivering? Are they competent? Are they doing the work?
No, but we must ask the first question first, not rather the person is qualified.
So I'm giving you everything, but I don't have the time.
No.
Okay.
That person you are asking whether is qualified, was some other person equally qualified, giving the opportunity of a competition?
That's why there are three. You can be qualified but inept. You can be qualified but incapable of delivering. Are they qualified? That ticks the box. Two, are they delivering? If they are not delivering, their qualification means nothing. And then more importantly, somebody can be delivering on their job, but they can be extremely corrupt. So delivering, especially in public office, is not enough. If you are delivering but you are corrupt, you should be gotten rid of. So these three things must come to bind, all right? And because nepotism is an amorphous concept, you have to be careful when you are dealing with it. Now, but
in a public office where you are handpicking these people for a public office that is funded by my tax,
yes,
everybody else should have the opportunity, who is equally qualified, should have the opportunity to compete. If there are contracts, they should have the opportunity to bid.
No, it's not true. You see, we have all this emotional feel. Everybody should have the opportunity to compete. The Constitution gave the president the power to appoint. If we want people to compete, we advertise it, they'll come and compete. The Constitution is an executive constitution. It was written in a way as to give the chief executive of this country no excuse for no failure. So he has to appoint. That removes competition. And if he has to appoint, he has to account for their stewardship. At the end of the day, what they do. And there is no problem per se with appointing even his relatives. Oleno in his judgment, I've forgotten the case, but many lawyers know it. When a judge was asked to recuse himself because there was a relationship with somebody, he said that in this country, the country is so small that if everybody has to recuse themselves because they are simply related to somebody, and we cannot believe that people can do their jobs despite this relationship, we will not have anybody to do anything in this country. In Salah, yes. You understand? And I could go on and on. So I'm making the point. I'm saying, look, there is law. Law binds you to do something. Sami has asked for law on nepotism.
You are saying,
I support
you are saying and suggesting to me that a president who is funded by my tax, an appointing authority who is funded by my tax money, should limit his reach and horizon in looking for qualified candidates simply because he knows people around him.
No, I didn't say that.
When in fact, he should be expanding.
He shouldn't limit. I rather say that he should not have no limits to even people who are competent. The Constitution gives him the power to appoint. And that appointment is not limited to anything. And the nature of our Constitution is said that it's an executive constitution. I have argued. I had a debate against HKP. We took time and intellectually dissected the matter. HKP won. I felt that, look, this Constitution is not a winner takes all, and I gave my reasons because I'm saying that, look, the president can appoint Sami. And I think it's a good thing because whatever happens there, he can't give an excuse. But many people have said that these appointment powers are too wide. If we want to change it, let's go and change that. But in terms of law, in terms of what the president has done,
just that we are not following the Constitution and sometimes want to blame the Constitution somewhat.
No, that's what you were.
Where you are supposed to appoint and the power you exercise ought to be exercised in a fair, candid, reasonable manner. Is it fair? Is it candid? Is it reasonable? Is it not arbitrarily when you limit your reach? Because I have a family friend.
I've said again,
I have some friends who are more.
It's rather that the president has not limited his reach. And the point is, that's why there are the three things. Is the person competent? So Sami mentions people like Kelly and says that they are sitting on the board. I doubt if there are more than 10 people in this country more qualified than Kelly Gajipo to sit where he's sitting. But at the end of the day, it is about what he does and his output and whether he's corrupt or not. So look, when we look at these things, we can easily stretch into the weeds. By law, nothing has been done wrong. And then you have ethics, okay, which can bind people. The political parties can choose that these ethics and whatever. And even ethics, I'm not subject to the ethics of the accountants in this country. I'm subject to the ethics of lawyers. It doesn't bind you. And then you have morality. Morality is where they are all appealing. that the president must exercise his moral, whatever, not to appoint this people. And I can't see it in terms of quantum, in terms of performance. I don't see anybody.
So on the global, you know, and a bit more of specific picture. You know, your friend, good friend, H. Kwesi Prempeh looks at it this way. So I want you to, your answer to this question. He says, assuming that these people you are talking about are even the best qualified, would it be okay if there were enough people in one family or two to fill, say, all the positions in cabinet, for a president to select all his cabinet ministers from that family? Would it be okay if a presidential candidate chose his relatives, I'm asking a question, chose his relative as his vice president? In a diverse democratic society, it's important for governments to be representative of the diversity in the society they govern. Nepotism reinforces tribalism because relatives are likely to belong to the same tribe.
It will not be okay. But if you have a certain set of circumstances which makes that imperative, then you have to revert to the rules, the competence and corporal. Look, this country's big six, okay? Do you know how they became big six? They were just arrested by the colonial government. They just went and picked up some people. They were not picking up relatives. But when they picked them up, locked them up, they came up and they got that branding. Today they are on your money. 3 of those people come from one house. Things happen which make it inevitable or very probable that a certain situation will arise. Now, if somebody had picked the big six, they'll say that is nepotism. So my point is, look, at the end of the day, it is an amorphous subject, and I wish I had time to explain to you why it's amorphous. But let me tell you something. All energy comes from emotion. If you have critical exercise to deal with, okay, sometimes the best thing to do is to find somebody who is not just competent, but has an emotional attachment to the success of the issue. That is why on your CV, there are references. The reference is that if you go and do something, this person's name is on the line. So we can go on and on and on. There is reason. Look, if you take the biggest democracy in this world, I mean, in terms of the loudest, look at America. Okay, you have the Kennedys. Okay, you have the Bush family. George Bush was president, his son was president, his other son almost became president, but for the phenomenon of Donald Trump. But he was a governor. Take the Clinton family. Only 3 people, husband, wife, and child. Husband was president. The wife won the popular vote and almost became president, but for the Electoral College. As we speak, the daughter is being pushed to go and stand for a position. She's saying no. What I'm saying is that if you just leave things be, it is possible that 3 members of the family will all end up in politics. So the point is this. Let's just stop this plenty talking and understand that, 1, there is no objective way to prove that this president is nepotistic. You can believe it, but it is not true. And honestly, we spend way too much time. There are many things we need to deal with in this country. We should just jettison this.
Now let me come to Sami, and having listened to all these views, and you would find that it's all against the way you try to project these matters. So there are specific questions asked. If the president is appointing 6,000, what's the percentage? 51. Assuming that all of that is correct. Okay. But fact is, all of that is not also correct.
All right. Samson, thank you. We in the NDC tolerate divergence. And so I respect the divergent opinions of my co-panelists around this table. But you see, the problem with us as a country is because of the hypocrisy in our commentary on national issues. The hypocrisy and the double standards is just too much. It is a fact that on 16th January 2016, the presidential candidate of the New Patriotic Party then in Kumasi at a national delegates conference of the NPP made a solemn promise to the people of Ghana that if elected, he will not operate a family and friends government, and proceeded to add that his wife will not distribute contracts under him as president. Nobody has been able to deny that promise or that fact. Now, when President Akufo-Addo made that promise, was he engaged in propaganda masturbation like Mr. Bako suggests? Was he expecting President Mahama to appoint his enemies into office like they are arguing around this table? Was that symptomatic of defective legal thinking like Gary is suggesting? Because the president is also a lawyer. And yet he was talking about family and friends. Somebody's wife distributing contracts, and that he will not do that. Was he, I will come there, so allow me to flow. Was he exhibiting,
no.
You don't ask the question, so allow me to make my point. I was here when you were speaking. Was he exhibiting defective legal thinking? Was he engaged in propaganda masturbation? Was he engaged in an amorphous, useless exercise, like Mr. Bentel is suggesting? Let us be principled. Let us be consistent. They were in this country when the president made that promise. We didn't hear them say the things they are saying around this table. Then they say, oh, now let's reduce the whole thing to political arithmetics. The president has the power to appoint about 6,000 people. And so if he appoints 60 people and so what? President Mahama appointed only one person who had any form of familiar relation with him. And that was an issue. So one appointed one relative of yours. The New Patriotic Party addressed a press conference on that. Which was actually addressed by Boakye Jako, their policy advisor. The president and his vice all spoke against that, just one family relative. And you think that 50 is okay. Well, granted that the president appoints 6,000 people. How many families are there in Ghana? Thousands of families. And you think that it is okay for only one family to have 50 out of 6,000? That is your understanding of fairness? And then they say, oh,
you are saying that.
Hold on.
You are saying that at the time President Mahama was president of this republic, he didn't have any relation
in his government.
Wait. Nephews or whoever working in any state organization.
Okay. We are
That's
saying.
the question. I need you to answer that question.
Yes,
that is the fact.
Because we haven't said that your question is wrong, so I need to correct the question.
No, it is not wrong because the people you
say,
did
this at the onset.
You speak
I was
about
thinking that you allow me.
Listen,
please.
Let me show you. Let me let you understand something. There's something that you, the politicians, don't understand. Let me just explain this briefly.
Okay.
There's something that you, the politicians, don't understand. Once you put a matter forward and you come on the show, don't expect us to give you a blank check. When we are interrogating those issues, allow us to interrogate because you have had the opportunity
and
to
before
speak.
I end, you ask another. So
it is,
okay, no
it is important. In fact, it helps you to bring the best out of the situation.
You are asking me whether there was no relative of President Mahama working in any state agency.
Because you mentioned Joyce Bauer, which is at the level of ministerial appointment.
And I am telling you that your question is misconceived because what is at stake here is the issue of appointees of the president. I am saying that apart from Joyce Bauer Muktari, President Mahama never appointed any family relative of his into any position. If you dispute that, produce evidence and let's discuss that. He never appointed any person.
You refer to
and yet
Dr.
that was an issue.
Dr. Bawumia's relation, who you have been told was in this
a lie.
Was in this position before the government,
a blatant lie.
Government came in.
So if you allow me, I will address those because it's a blatant lie. He was working at the Ministry of Interior under us, but he was not a presidential staffer, and he was not a technical advisor to the Minister of Interior. Under the NDC, there was no position called technical advisor to the Minister of Interior. That is, hold on. Now? Yes, he is. His name is on the unprecedented list of 998. If you want, I will prove that to you. And so his current position as technical advisor to the Minister of Interior is an appointment made by President Akufo-Addo.
Okay, so that's what you are questioning.
It is also a lie for Gary to sit around this table and say, Nana Kofi-Dapo Asante Bedietu's father is not in government. He is the government representative on Ghana Bauxite Company. He is the chairman of the GIPA Council. And did I hear somebody say that is not government? Who is he there representing? He's representing government. He's an appointee of government, answerable to the president. So let me proceed systematically. Today we are having people in this country who know that all around the world, nepotism is frowned upon because of its tendency to breed corruption and favoritism, saying that it is okay for the president to make his own daughter a member of the Creative Arts Council. It is okay for President Akufo-Addo to dash a vast space dedicated for a duty-free shop in Terminal 3, built by President Mahama, to another daughter of his, without any transparent tendering process. How did President Akufo-Addo's daughter get that space?
President Akufo-Addo gave a contract.
I am saying.
No, that's what you're saying. President Akufo-Addo
I have not said that. That is your creation.
That's what you said.
No.
He said he dashed.
Yes, of course.
So gifts.
Yes.
That he gave a contract.
Yes, and that is even stronger.
The president gave the contract.
The only reason why President Akufo-Addo's daughter is the one running that vast space as a duty-free shop is because her father is president. Because that space was not given to her through any competitive, transparent tendering process. If you know it, you can tell us. The Ghana Airport Company is watching. I am daring them, or challenging them to adduce evidence that we went through this laid-down procedure of law to select her. You are saying that it is okay for the president to give his baby mama, Madame Virginia Hesse, a position as ambassador to the Czech Republic. It's okay for his cousin to be finance minister. It's okay for his cousin to be roads and highways minister. It is okay for his maternal relative to be works and housing minister. It is okay for the wife of his nephew to be a board member of GMPC, the brother of that same wife. Here I'm talking about Gabi, to be board chairman of BOST.
Board chairman.
Rodalemba Fojima, another cousin, board member of GOEL. Is Ghana for them? Are they the only qualified people in the MPP? Are they the only qualified people in this country? And then when we are raising these issues, okay, people oversimplify the issue. And I mean, we are all a family. We are related to each other. Why? Samuel Abu-Jinapor is the president boy. We didn't mention his name. Mustafa Hamid used to work for the president. We didn't mention his name because they are rather the ones who are stretching this whole argument into realms of absurdity. Because we didn't talk about all those friends of the president. We are telling you that if the Bank of Ghana has oversight responsibility over the banking sector, and you have a co-founder.
Data Bank is not licensed with the Bank of Ghana. Just be sure about that.
Is it not a bank? Are they not under the regulatory?
No, under BOT.
Simple.
Yeah, it's not a bank.
It's under SEC.
Hold on.
No, get your law right. Get your facts right.
Please.
Get your law right. Get your facts right.
I respect you, so show me the same respect.
Yeah,
I beg you, please.
I think so.
You see, Data Bank. Are we saying Data Bank is not a bank and doesn't fall within the regulatory functions of the Bank of Ghana? Is that what we're saying?
It doesn't fall.
It doesn't fall within, so it falls under who?
SEC.
Who?
It's a finance house, SEC.
SEC.
It's not a bank, yeah.
So it doesn't fall under the finance ministry.
It's a finance company.
Well,
but it's
that
not a bank.
is what we can interrogate.
Check
Let's
this
move
fact.
on.
No, but I know that the Bank of Ghana has regulatory functions over Data Bank. And for that matter, if Kelly Gajipu and all the other stuff I have mentioned...
You're just being corrected. You should take that.
No, that is what they are saying.
But
we
that's
need
what
to double
you are
check
also
that.
saying.
But I don't think
That's
that
what
is
you are
true
also
because I
saying.
think that the Bank of Ghana has oversight over Data Bank. I will not accept that. But you see something? Look, they make the argument that we are engaging in tribalism and ethnocentrism. Yet, in this country, you had a friend of President Akufo-Addo, Professor Stephen Ade, who he has now awarded with 2 juicy positions: board chairman of Ghana Revenue Authority Board and chairman of National Development Planning Commission.
Is he competent?
Oh, hold on. He came out and said this: President Mahama must stop the northern appointments. Mr. Kofi Bentel was in this country. Gary Nimakon was in this country. And Mr. Bakon were all in this country. All of them. I never heard any of them call Professor Stephen Ade to order. This is a man who lumped all people of northern descent, northern background, as relatives of the president. Today he has been given a position in this government. And now you are talking about, you are the only people, the NPP is the only party which has engaged in the politics of ethnocentrism under the guise of nepotism. We haven't done so. We are saying that hard-working members of your party have been sidelined in your own stronghold. And yet, people who came from nowhere have been given juicy appointments only because they are related to the president. What role did Madame Virginia Hesse play? But for the fact that She is a baby mama of the
Why
president.
are you the one to determine that for the party?
Because we all speak
Has
based
the
on what we
party
know.
complained to you?
Oh,
that,
Kennedy Japan was
that
complaining not too long ago.
Was
The
complaining that
CEO
what?
of GMPC, Dr. KK Sapon, was complaining about the practice of clanism at GMPC relative to the national chairman of the NPP, Freddie Blay. This is not the creation of Sami Jenfi. I am speaking about things that senior members of the New Patriotic Party are record to have spoken about. Then, Samson, you have a situation where a contract being executed by a state company bust is taking over. If I can just make this point.
Wait.
Yes.
I have a certain difficulty.
Okay.
And my difficulty is this, that you just throw out allegations about people and how they may have procured a particular contract, and you think that is enough and that's it. All of us should take that.
One example.
The example
of Stratcon Energy.
You just referred to at the is it the airport?
I will put
listen, all you have done is what the political parties you are good at doing, to say, I have made an allegation. Let the one who feels it is wrong come to proof.
So what proof do you need? I have told you, Samson, you are a journalist. I have told you that we have given a state asset to the daughter of the president without any transparent tendering process.
Transparent? Now you're saying transparent.
Without any tendering process at all. I am telling you that as a fact. My integrity is on the line here. You have a production team. What evidence do you want me to give you? You want me to give you what? I have told you that a company associated to the brother of the president, Bonti's daughter is Akufo-Addo. Her husband owns Stratcon Energy, a company with no track record in the energy sector. They have taken over a contract which hitherto was being executed by a state company, Boss. When Boss makes profit, that revenue comes to all of us as a country. They are depriving that state company or the state of revenue. That revenue is now going into the bank accounts of a family relative of the president.
And your point is that
Stratcon Energy won that contract without any competitive tendering process. This one too, I am alleging here. My integrity is on the line. You can check if you say I am lying.
Wait.
I mean,
when
because I don't get you when you say I should give you evidence.
Hold on. When you say without competitive tendering process, are you saying they got the contract by sole source, or there was no contract at all?
Nothing at all.
How is that possible?
Nothing at all.
How is that possible?
Were you not in this country?
No.
How was it possible for 11 contracts awarded through restricted tendering, or about 4 contracts awarded throue restricted tendering to a company owned by ADJ to be sold?
Let me
to other companies.
Let me make this disclaimer.
Okay.
That for some of the claims you have made, particularly with regards to matters of contracts, it is difficult to believe that in these organizations, a contract can be handed without a process of contracting, either sole source or restrictive tendering or whatever it is. To that extent, I will say once we are not in a position to immediately verify the claims you are making, we will not be associated with those comments.
Thank you.
What I'll therefore ask is that you don't proceed to continue with those claims.
Okay. What I would say is this.
Okay. I give you the next 2 minutes to finish up on your submission.
I respect your disclaimer. I mean, you're entitled to that. The NDC as a corporate body has conducted its investigations. We stand by all these claims because they are factual and indisputable, and anybody who disagrees with that can adduce contrary evidence, or they themselves know what to do. But then again, how can we sit around this table and say that it is okay for oil funds belonging to the people of this country, which are supposed to be utilized for the benefit of everybody, to be given to the wife of President Akufo-Addo?
Okay, that's another discussion.
We have said that.
Hold on.
It's the next discussion.
You have an issue with everything. I will not be part of that discussion. But it is within. Okay, I will move to another issue. So then let me move to another issue within my 2 minutes. So Samson, number one, I have made a point that President Akufo-Addo promised not to practice nepotism. And we have every right to hold him accountable to that promise, because that is what we are supposed to do as citizens and not spectators. Number two, we have every right to subject him to the very standard he subjected President Mahama to. He is not a sacred cow, and we will not allow him to reprobate and approbate. Number three, we are saying that this unprecedented practice of nepotism he is pursuing is actually leading to a situation where Ghana is losing millions. Corruption is on the ascendancy. His ability to crack the whip on these people who are milking the state coffers dry has been weakened as a result of the family tie that binds him and those public officials together. And we are saying that if the United States of America can outlaw nepotism, something Mr. Bentley calls amorphous, and yet agrees with us that an amorphous thing can be outlawed. If other countries, can outlaw nepotism,
yeah, we can do that.
then the call by the National Democratic Congress that it is important for us to impose clear restrictions on the powers of the president to hire and fire, so that that power is not abused. And so that at all times, the president and public officials will ensure an even distribution of opportunities and resources. That call is in order. They may disagree with it, but we know that majority of Ghanaians, including MPP faithfuls, agree with us. Okay. The nepotism is too much. It is breeding corruption, and it is killing the country. And people must have the courage to speak up, say the truth, be principled, be consistent. If you didn't condemn something yesterday, don't condemn it today.
All right,
because
thank you.
You will be exhibiting double standards.
Thank you.
That is all I have to say.
Thank you very much. I've got some of your messages that I'm going to share with you. Okay, and there are issues that suggest some rejoinder as far as some of the names that I mentioned are concerned. So I will share some of those as well. Okay. Right, somebody sort of asking when Ofosu said last that this time round, no contribution, no chop. What did he mean? And this is from Ejekum. So he's simply saying the politicians, this is what they really do. This one says, if we spoke against family and friends government during Mahama's era, we need to do same for Akufo-Addo's government. There is a replicated phenomenon. It's simply called principle, honesty, and objectivity. This is from Cecil Kwabena. Dr. Apak says, what is nepotism? What is nepotism in government? Why is it that suddenly the so-called neutrals today want to give President Akufo-Addo, who has appointed vast loads of his family members, a pass? Call it nepotism or any other name. The president has appointed loads of his family members and friends. And please spare us the lame excuses of qualification. Who doesn't have the members in his or her family who are qualified? No one is saying it's unconstitutional, but that makes it, does that make it okay? Well, question of unconstitutionality has been mentioned by Sami Jemfi as well, as far as the constitution requires balance, regional balance, except that he is unable to show where the balance is lacking. You were allowed.
Demonstrated that.
I gave you sufficient opportunity. You didn't do that.
Family, 100 appointees.
This one, Manche Bruce, is it? He says, a cynic is a man who knows the price of everything and the value of nothing. Scratch him, and you will find a disappointed idealist. I am happy that Sami Jemfi didn't doubt the competence of any of the persons he named in the press conference he organized last week. With this kind of wishy-washy attitude, the NDC will stay in opposition for a very long time. Manche Bruce sent in that one. Okay. Mr. Kakre Suman is somewhat okay. So it is holding people to a process of verification. It's not needless heckling, and I know how the politicians do it. When you do it to the other party, it is fine. But when you do it to your party, you people have a problem with it. I think you must allow us to do our jobs. if I try to exact answers for things you have already said, there's nothing wrong about that. Okay, so what I'll do is that I'll take a break. I have quite a number of these things. I'll take a break and then go through some of them and come and share some of them with you, because some of them appear to be some rejoinder. And we have a legal constitutional obligation to give those rejoinders as well. We'll be right back.